here to join me now. These reopening protests wanting to reopen America have happened all across the country. Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs was one of the first, if not the first in Congress to start asking for and start declaring that we need to reopen America now. And he joins me to discuss it. Hi, Congressman Biggs. Welcome to the Andrea Kaye Show.
Thank you, Andrea, and I'm happy to be with anyone who's the donut queen of anywhere, much less San Diego. That's fantastic.
Well, thank you. And you know what? I dig so much about what you're doing to reopen America that I'm even honored to have a Zoni on the San Diego show tonight.
Fantastic.
Okay, so, as I watched Cuomo this morning, it's been clear for a while that the virus is real, but the attempt to hijack it, to hold Americans hostage while the Democrats amass more power for themselves, impose tyranny on citizens, condition them to accept tyranny and have their constitutional rights taken from them, create a dependency on them by destroying whole industries. It's beginning to look to me as though the bigger battle we're going to face in this country is for citizens to get their power back from these power mad dictators called governors and mayors. I know that you just joined President Trump's task force. Have you guys had discussions about that? Your thoughts?
Well, we've had the discussions on the economic side, and the Freedom Caucus guys and myself are pushing for stronger discussions on the constitutional rights side of it, because these things go hand in hand, as you know. When you start looking at authoritarians, they will take a crisis and they will use it to arrogate power to themselves and diminish and manipulate the populace. And that's what we see here. The people at the top, the leadership of the Democrats and the left, they're taking a situation and they're manipulating it through their base. And the reality is, it's emasculating the economy and also emasculating our constitutional rights. And the people are starting to wake up. They're starting to stand up. And we're seeing this. There were two in Phoenix yesterday and today. There were two rallies to open this thing up. And we still can't get some of our elected officials to wake up.
Well, and I wonder how we're going to do that, because Adam Housley, formerly from Fox News, I don't know if he's with Fox anymore, had tweeted out that there was a hospital or multiple hospitals in Arizona that were about to furlough workers because the hospital was empty. Palomar Hospital in San Diego, we furloughed or they laid off 220 employees. These shutdowns were billed to us as though we've got to keep the hospitals from becoming overwhelmed. Once we flatten the curve, we could all get back to business. And that's just not happening. We're literally being held hostage. And then from the economic side, and they've preyed upon the hearts and the minds of the American people, almost terrorized them to be so fearful that they're going along with it. And I feel like I'm having a hard time explaining this because I don't want to demonize anybody that's been caught up with fear. But I don't think a lot of Americans who initially bought into these shutdowns really realized how long this could possibly go on, the extent of the economic damage, and how so many small businesses are never to return. The oil industry is crashing. And from an economic standpoint, Stephen Moore said, we can't go past May 1 much without it being a permanent economic disaster for us. And so all that being said, then if you could reopen America, how would you go about doing it? Because like in Arizona, where you've got a hospital furloughing people because it's empty, same thing as here. Does it make sense to just say, okay, everybody go back to business, or do you think it should be done in phases? How should it be done?
Well, I'm not a big one on these phases necessarily. I get where the president's trying to go, but for me, the governors need to say, let's open up. Yeah. And you need to really get back to these hospitals. The reason the hospitals are closing is because they don't have cash flow. And they don't have cash flow because they can't do any of these elective surgeries. The elective surgeries are everything from cancer treatments. We've had eye surgeries that have been postponed. The constituents that I talked to, they need these surgeries, and they're saying, oh, no, that's elective, so you can't go in. We have, I talked to FEMA last week in Arizona. We have 25% of our ventilators in use, 75% not in use. I've been trying to lobby more ventilators in, but it turns out it doesn't look like we're going to need them. We're seeing a flattening here in Arizona, and we've got beds open. So I would start with the hospitals. That's where I'd go. And I would say, you guys make the choice. You're talented, smart administrators. We trust you to make the choice. You want to make sure you have PPE, or PPE, PPE,
Yeah.
the PPP and PPE. It's starting to rattle me. So, yeah, we want to make sure you got the gear and the beds, and you can take care of surgery if we get it. But we want to make sure that you can take care of Americans who aren't getting treatment and they're getting sick. And then I would also open up this very same day. I'd go fully open everything, but I would say, look, if you can go into a big box store or a grocery store, you can go to a restaurant to pick up food, and you're socially distanced and you're responsible the way we know Americans want to be. They don't want to spread this virus. Then we'll open up every retail shop, for Pete's sake. Open up the furniture stores, the hobby stores, the curio stores, the makeup stores. They can open up. You can do this. That's what I would do.
And I agree with you. We're talking to Congressman Andy Biggs about reopening America. Absolutely, because it doesn't make sense. And one of the reasons why people are starting to protest is one of my favorite quotes is from the brilliant Judge Judy. If it doesn't make sense, it's not true. And it doesn't make sense that it's okay that you can congregate in Walmart, but you can't congregate in your church. It doesn't make sense that you, right, that you can drive through the drive-through at McDonald's, but you can't drive into a parking lot. In Mississippi, I think they threw some nails into just the entrances of a parking lot. In a church, people couldn't even allowed to sit in their cars. I mean, it's just not adding up. And the numbers that were presented to justify these shutdowns were obviously inflated. It was never going to be 2 million people. Even those models themselves were based upon us never doing anything, and the United States was never going to do nothing to stop the spread of this. So then on top of it, you've got a situation where we suddenly these rules and regulations. I'm not one who believes in the social distancing guidelines because nobody's been able to present to me any scientific study to justify that it has anything at all to do with stopping the spread of this or any other virus. And it's a means to control us. And if we can get rid of the social distancing, if we can stop people from buying in, that the government has a right to tell us how far that we have to stay away from somebody, we've got to get rid of the social distancing guidelines so that we can get businesses reopened, because that's how they're controlling us. That's how they're keeping hair salons closed, because who can do my hair and do my roots if without getting closer within 6 feet? How can you open up a restaurant and allow people inside? So to me, I think we almost need to have a discussion about our American culture and how we are not a culture that allows ourselves to be controlled and told where we can go and when we can go. And oh, by the way, now that we've done all this, even if you believe all that, we've done it for long enough now. We got to get to some herd immunity, and we got to get America reopened. Fauci says we can't flip a switch. I say we flip it and tell people, you're too scared to go out, stay home. The rest of us are going to go about our lives, Congressman Biggs.
Agreed. 100% agreed. I mean, look, Mr. Fauci, Dr. Fauci recently said that we can never really engage in handshakes again. Handshakes are passé because you'll make each other sick. That's one point. The second point is this. We know that freedom comes with risk. It does. Mm-hmm. If you want 100% security and live in a bubble, guess what? That has its own weird risks to it. But to be a free people, you have risks. And that means we don't spread stuff. We don't want to spread stuff. We don't want to do anything that causes somebody else harm. But you know what? We live our lives, and you live your life. I'm going to live my life. We're going to make choices. Choices come. Freedom comes with accountability. So that's the second point. I think that's really important to remember. And then the third point is this: if we cede our rights to the government and our economy to the government now, because we've been told and we see an outbreak of a serious disease, are we ever going to get those rights back? Once you've lost rights, I mean, this is what Reagan said. This is contrary to what Senator Booker said when he was on campaign, but President Reagan had it right. He said, freedom is not in your DNA. Freedom does not live in your DNA. And if you don't protect and preserve your freedom, it will be gone within a generation. And when it's gone, you'll be sitting there telling your grandchildren what it was like to live in America when it was free. That is the point. That is the crossroads we sit at today. We have got to face the fact that we have got to stand up and fight for our freedoms, because if we don't do it, if the people of America don't do it, believe me, the people who want to govern, and not govern, but to actually rule America, they will take away those rights.
Well, they're in the process of doing it right now, and the American people want our rights back. We want to be able to go to church when we want, go to the beaches when we want, go to a restaurant. If you're too scared to go to a restaurant, just don't go to a restaurant. And it's concerning to me, Congressman Biggs, where I hear conservatives try to argue with me me, I have been vilified because I never bought into the models from day one. I disagreed with shutting it down for 5 minutes day one. We had only lost 50 Americans at the point in which we shut down, tanked the economy intentionally. And, I'm hearing conservatives use the same arguments to shut down this economy, shut people in their homes, tell them how far they have to stay apart from people. They got to wear masks. They got to do this, got to do that, that the government can come and take your business from you, which is like page 94 out of the Communist Manifesto. And I'm hearing conservatives use the same talking points that to justify this, that the left uses for gun control. Oh, well, if we can just save one life, we got to balance our rights versus no. We're the
Right.
United States of America, Congressman Biggs. We're the country that sends people that our greatest generation fought to enlist to go and risk their lives to protect the world from Nazism. We give lives for freedom. Now we're sacrificing freedoms under the guise of government protecting us from catching a virus, and the government can't even keep us from catching a virus.
No, you're exactly right. I 100% agree with that. I mean, that's my point is you can't tell me that when things are difficult that we lose our rights, that you have to give up your rights. No, we have our rights. We also have choices that come with accountability. That's the thing you need to remember. And I'll just say one other thing. When you start looking at epidemics, and I look back everything from the AIDS epidemic to H1N1, et cetera, to the annual flu epidemic we have. We have an epidemic every year of the flu.
You're not allowed to talk about the flu, Congressman Biggs. That's the F word. Go on.
Yeah, well, I know that, but I mean, I'm going to tell the truth. And between 30 and 40 million Americans get the flu every year, right? We hospitalize well over 500,000 people every year with the flu, and multiple tens of thousands die every year from the flu. And you know what we do? We've got vaccines and we've got treatments, and we tell people, be careful with your hygiene. You know what? But we don't ever shut down the economy, and we don't take away people's rights.
No, and back, I remember being a kid and people being freaked out because nobody had any idea how HIV was transmitted. And you know what? Nobody was locked down. And they certainly didn't demand that gay people be shuttered inside their homes to protect themselves or anybody else. So
Right.
the left has done a really good job of moving our culture in the minds of the American people to the left. But I think a lot of Americans are waking up. And so I thank you for what you're doing to reopen America. Not enough Congress people are being as vocal as you are about it. And so hopefully we can get you back as this progresses, because I don't think this is going to be over anytime soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrea.